Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Test, Optimize, and Scale. Joined here by Jason Brents, founder involved with OneDoor Studios, MyStream, Passive Aggressive Properties, has been successful using regulation crowdfunding, has been successful in growing businesses across various verticals. We're going to talk about the world of entrepreneurship, going to talk about what it takes to overcome obstacles and hit large goals. I've been friends with Jason for 5 years now. Have had the opportunity to work on projects and love checking and love seeing what he's up to. I've been looking forward to the discussion today. Jason Brents, thanks for taking the time to join the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Jason Fishman. Nice to have a good, strong first name.
That's right. That's right. I know on some of our calls, you'd say, hey, call me Jay. That way the team doesn't find it confusing, Jason, right? Jay. But always enjoy that first, hey, Jason, on both sides of the line.
Exactly.
And I feel like I know so much about you, looking forward to learning more, but want to familiarize listeners, viewers with your background. Where did it all begin for you? How did you get on this path to becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, first of all, Jason, I respect you a lot. I view you, I always, when I talk to you and when I talk to people about you and introduce you, I always say you're one of the best crowdfunding, if not the best crowdfunding marketing guy I know of in the whole nation. So just a plug for you. I'm honored to be on your show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you don't feel like you have to say that just because you're on the podcast, but
no,
it really
I
means
wasn't
a lot
planning to, frankly, but I wanted to. Look, it was interesting. I grew up in Northern California, small town. My family didn't have business people. In fact, it was hard to find business people when I got into it. It's kind of, I feel like it's a small group of people who are really entrepreneurs, I guess, until you move to the Bay Area. But anyway, where I grew up, there weren't many that I could talk to. And it was actually, I was already married. I had 2 young children. I was in my early 20s. And my dad handed me this book. And I know what a lot of people are going to say. They probably know what it is. It was by Robert Kiyosaki, called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
And it absolutely exploded everything that I knew about economics and about money and how money works and being an employee, the cash flow quadrant, passive income, all that kind of stuff. Completely turned my way of thinking around, a massive paradigm shift. So that was, I would say, the beginning. And as a man of faith, I wanted my life to have meaning and purpose. I didn't want to live kind of a self-centered life. And so in my prayers, I wanted to know what's the point of my life? What am I supposed to do? And interestingly enough, that came into play. Business became one of the primary things as a purpose of my life and a focus, which is interesting because I went to school, I was educated. Like I said, I didn't even read Rich Dad, Poor Dad until I was already married and with kids, and I was into my career as a teacher. I was actually a youth pastor at the time, but
very nice.
I only did that three years. And I've been teaching most of the time as a day job, high school history, although the last 2 years I've been doing English, which I enjoy quite a bit as well. So when I actually was sharing this with my classes this morning, my English classes, when I look back at my journals, it's interesting because I didn't realize this when I wrote it down, but if I read back into them, they're chock full of dreams about writing novels and about producing movies. But I wrote them as dreams. I didn't write them as like something you can actually do, because where I came from, we didn't know anybody who actually produced movies. That's like a crazy thing to try and accomplish, right? So you didn't even try. But after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and after pursuing, I don't know how to say this, after deciding to pursue a meaningful life, yes, and not coloring within the lines, I just decided, you know what? everybody in the world will tell you you have to, I don't know, be born into it, or you have to study, or I don't know. They tell you you can't do it. But I just decided those rules don't apply. I'm just going to try. And so in my 30s was when I decided, I've been playing around with entrepreneurship. And I will say this, I have 5 children, and just trying to provide, for the family, holding down a day job and trying to be an entrepreneur and launch, found something is difficult. It's not easy.
To say it lightly. Yes.
To say it lightly. Yeah. So there did come a point though where I jumped off the cliff. I found another partner, John J. Lee Jr. And he was very instrumental, I would say, in just kind of becoming a mentor, coming alongside and showing me it. The way I found him is kind of interesting, and this became a pattern for me. I taught history, and so research is something I do. And so I researched, to the best of my knowledge, all the best books on how to produce movies. And I really only found one, and it was his, that I felt it covered how do you produce global theatrical movies that are big budget movies that are the kind of movies I want to make. I didn't want to get into like a small film that was only seen in art houses in my county or something like that, Wanted to make real movies if I'm going to make them at all. Go big or go home. So I ended up reaching out to him and sharing with him my story and the 3 projects I wanted to make in the movies. And he ends up calling me back a few days later and asking me if I want to partner with him. Wow. Yeah, it kind of blew my mind. It didn't take me long to say yes, frankly. And so we ended up partnering, and that was the birth of OneDoor Studios. There was another friend who was really instrumental as well, and I could get into all the details. Kirsten Rogers, her dad started a company. It's not really a company; it's a nonprofit called Wedgwood Circle. Okay. And they were instrumental in bringing about some movies like Amazing Grace is one of them. That's a really good movie, by the way. Amazing Grace? Yeah. Have you seen it? I haven't. It's the story of William Wilberforce. Okay. And he was one of the, if not the main guy who helped to end slavery in Great Britain. And it was through a whole bunch of things that he did involving art as well as politics. And it's fantastic. Adding it to the list. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was the beginning of OneDoor Studios. And when I look back at what I'm good at and what I ended up doing, I would say I really have no right to be where I am. It's not like I went to film school. It's not like I have this amazing skill set that I bring to the table. What I have is I have passion, I have heart, and I reach out to people and I share that with them. And like it started with John, and then later Stephen Woolworth joined, and then later Dan Cobb and Paul Lauer. Paul Lauer was the marketing guru behind The Passion of the Christ, and then about 100 other movies in the faith adjacent space. And it's been kind of just a similar thing of I bring people. I don't know. I connect with people in a very authentic way because I'm honestly just being myself and just sharing my vision with them, and then they end up wanting to partner with us or work with us for some reason, and so that's a big part of what I brought to it. You play it down, but that is a superpower. We talk about crowdfunding, it's building that community. I could say the same for any marketing campaign, any brand launch for that matter. The fact that you're able to team build, you read a book, how to produce a film, main stage at that, let's go big. You reach out to the author and are so compelling at that.
and your journey, your goals, that they then want to partner with you. You then build this team. You're making your calls, you're bringing your passion, your heart. You're very genuine in these communications. And you're able to set up a group of individuals to go at these large objectives and are successful at doing so. It's rare in this world in my experience and working with entrepreneurs and success rates, startups, year 1, year 5. It is not the common. So I actually hear that from people a lot on the podcast of, hey, I'm good at these things, but I couldn't do any of it without my partners. I couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
there's even greater ways to do it at that. I have read, there's a funny quote around it of, uh, the smarter you are, the more you realize you don't know. You don't refer to yourself as that. And so I hear that in experts. I hear that with some of the people who are the best in the world at what they do. And you guys get this whole group together, OneDoor Studios, a lot of production companies. What was your differentiator? What was the brand? What was the mission? What was the assignment that you guys were all enrolled in, and the first pictures, the first productions you worked on from there?
Funny you ask, because no joke, I literally just had this conversation with my students about their education, because it's at the core of what me and my partners are as human beings, as well as our company.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has heard of these. They're called the 3 transcendentals.
Okay.
Okay, they're the good, the true, and the beautiful.
I like it.
Yeah, and so they're transcendental because they rise above everything else in life. And so, if you want me to boil down what is it that really unites the 5 partners, me and the 4 other partners, I would say it is unrelenting, lifelong, deep, passionate commitment to the good, the true, and the beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously, it's a film production company. And so those are the kinds of stories we want to produce. And people are always asking us whenever we say, yeah, we have a production company. Well, what kind of movies do you make? What genre do you make? We make them all. It doesn't matter. It could be an action movie. It could be a drama. It could be probably not horror, but, on the border of it, maybe like a thriller. But it's got to be good. The bottom line, it's got to be good. It's got to be true. It's got to be beautiful. Or at least it's got to inspire us when you're sitting in the theater. There's got to be that moment, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think all good stories, all good literature, all good movies always come down to this: is there that moment when, so to speak, God is whispering in your ear and your life is being changed?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah. And so it's just that moment. The script has to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of which, you were talking about partnerships and how we all bring these different things to the table. It's so true. Steven is just, he's amazing at a lot of things, but obviously he's a guru at producing actual movies. He's the technician. He knows how to do it all. And Paul is this amazing, he's Jewish. Okay. He is so good at finances and just tightening it down and making sure there's not one nut that's loose on the whole machine. I mean, he's so good at that.
Very important.
And Dan is the hype man. And John is the sage. And anyway, and yet all of us had to humble ourselves and be like, you know what, we need help. And so we hired Belle Avery, who produced the Meg, and she's just a genius on every level, at actually producing films, which technically none of us on the team, even though we've had our hand, not me personally, but all my other partners have had their hands in the world of Hollywood and producing movies and all that for decades, So to humble ourselves and be like, you know what, even though we have so much here, we still need more, and we need Belle Avery to come alongside and guide us through this process of our first film, and it's going amazingly. Like, she's really killing it. The script is way better than it's ever been, and all the packaging and everything for the producing of the movie and everything. So I just agree with what you said earlier. It's true.
Bring in the hype, bring in the financial expertise, bring in the stage, bring in the production and the tech aspects of it, and then still saying, hey, look at what Belle's done. Let's bring her onto the team. We're in the big leagues here. Let's do everything we can to hit the goals and make sure enough people see this. We're creating amazing moments based on
Yeah.
stories that are good, true, beautiful. We want to inspire with that. We're unrelenting. We're passionate. We're committed to this. We need to make sure there's all of the right pieces present.
Yeah. You're good at summarizing that. That's really good. One thing that came to mind is, and this is actually in John Lee wrote that book I told you about. It's called the Producer's Business Handbook.
Okay.
And I now just finished the 5th edition, by the way, which is going to be coming out hopefully pretty soon. But the 4th edition is the most recent one. But in there, he talks a lot about win-win relationships. Dan talks a lot about this too. Like, often you don't need money. What you really need is a partner. And people don't get that. They feel like they want to negotiate and always win in every. It's almost like always a contest, But it's really when you get to the higher levels, what a lot of the highest professional people I've encountered in this space, they don't see the world that way. They always see it as an abundance mentality, people call it.
Yes.
They find win-win partnerships where you both have something the other needs. Let's just make it pleasant for both of us and not fight over, trying to get an edge over the other guy, and just win-win. And that's the kind of thing, like with Belle Avery, we're doing. She has the same passion. She's an amazing producer, and we're so glad we found her, because she shares our same values of the kind of movies she wants to make. And when she saw our slate, she was like, "You're the guys I'd love to work with."
All about strategic partnerships, relationships. I could tell you from our endeavors, if we're able to meet a good publisher and they're able to speak to their audience about issuers, companies we're working with, they're offering value to their audience. It's a win on the other side of the table for the company, the issuer. We're happy to be involved. We want to be excited with projects that are standouts in the industry. So I find it's all a matter of seeking that out. And everyone gets turned off by the salesperson, someone who's too transactional. It doesn't even feel like a real,
I do.
authentic conversation. Exactly. Where if you're finding ways to, I don't want to say offer value, but be of value to people, and there's not that type of necessity involved of, hey, this has to be a signed contract or this or that, as much as let me just do this. It really goes a long way. I can tell you, I couldn't put a price tag on my relationships. And if I tried to just sell some of those people something early on, sure, maybe that would have occurred and been a success for both groups. But being able to find those, real organic win-win relationships, I mean, it's a matter of complementing services, complementing offers, finding things that could be done that align with each other's goals, that mutually beneficial partnership. It even feels transactional talking about it like that. But when the dots connect and you're able to, have something that feels beyond just business of, hey, if there was no money involved, we'd still be doing this. There was a quote I learned back in high school, my work experience course, of the most successful people, you can't tell whether they're working or playing. They're just always going after their vision of perfection. There
That's a
was
good quote.
a paragraph around it, letting others decide. But I've tried to model my focuses off that, and look to be of value in all conversations, because even if I look at business, I consider it the monetization of value, and there's a time and place for it. There's a time and place of it where it's not monetization, and really it's just a matter of seeking out those strategic discussions, those win-win dynamic partnerships, as you're saying.
Jason, I know you're not fishing for compliments, but you kind of set yourself up for this one. The truth is, back in 2020, when we did our first raise on Calculated, and I reached out to you. I mean, I reached out to you. I did my research, and you were like number one or number two nationwide. That's why I reached out to you. But I when I met you and talked to you, I came away from that first conversation going, "What in the world?" Like, he just gave me all the information I needed. Like, I could just take that.
Mhm.
He's so generous, basically, was what I felt like. So everything you just said, you did actually do that when I first met you. And then that continued. And I mean, if you asked my partners, what we really appreciated when we worked with you was the ROAS. I mean,
Mhm.
you guys had some killer ROAS when we did that. And ROAS stands for return on ad spend, right?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
we were like 10 or 11 at one point to one. For every dollar we spent, we got 10 or 11 bucks back. It was crazy awesome. But
I appreciate you saying that, especially the experience she had on the call, because that's what I set out to do. That's what I tell myself each morning. And I
yeah,
have
it
a lot
comes
of fun
through.
doing it. There's a level of fulfillment, but I'm glad to hear that's the experience on the other side. It can be difficult to tell in this day and age and digital conversations and video and this and that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, it's true.
So you guys had a lot of success around the calculated film, calculated sequels. Can we talk about that a little bit? What made you decide, hey, this is the script, this is the project, this is the impact we want to have in the world?
That's a good that's a good question. And to qualify it, I mean, I just like to be honest.
Please.
Define success, right? I mean, it's been a long time since 2018, frankly, when we first read the book.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think it was 2018. And it was a manuscript. It wasn't even published back then. But you know what? After meeting Belle Avery, all my insecurities have been kind of checked, because it took, I think she said, 9 years to finally get the Meg ready. And if you don't know who Belle Avery is, she produced the Meg and the Meg 2, The Trench, which is $1 billion franchise, and that's just in the box office, not counting all the other stuff. So she said what I've learned now is that that's just the nature of filmmaking. Like, it's hard. So technically, I mean, we're still in the process, and it's been a long process, and it's our first movie. So I'm just trying to be honest and say, success. Well, technically, we haven't succeeded yet. But interestingly enough, I was just again talking to my students about this. What do you define as success when it's an elephant you're trying to eat, right? And you've got to learn to celebrate each step along the way. And there's been a lot of amazing steps that have led to the point where we can attract someone of the caliber of a Belle Avery who would sign on and say, yeah, this is the project I want to produce next. And you asked the question, why would we choose this book? Well, frankly, when we read the book, it blew our minds. And I mean, it wasn't perfect in manuscript form, and it had to go through a few
Sure.
changes, but
Sure.
it had when if you look at our world now, what's one of the main things that people are struggling for, young people in particular? I would say they're searching for their identity.
Mm.
Identity is a big question out there. It's a big struggle. A lot of kids don't know who they are, don't know what they're about, and there's a lot of questions surrounding that. And this book, that's the core of this book, and it goes. The storyline is this genius, math genius. She can see it. She can see math. She can calculate everything around her, and it ends up making her be able to handle the stock market really easily, like a game. Makes a lot of money for her dad, and that gets the attention of this cartel lady over in China. It's actually, she's not Chinese, but she's in China at the time, and she ends up kidnapping her. And then she goes through a process of having several different names, and each name is like a different section of the book, because she's in this prison for a while and they call her 88 or double eight, and then her captor calls her Octavian, and then her mentor in the prison and she escapes calls her Phoenix, and she has a real name, obviously Josephine, but what's her identity, and that's the kind of stories we look for, is like what, and this, frankly, the story has such an amazing core. It really does have some golden nuggets for young people nowadays on how to find your true identity, and how to forgive, and how to have the superpower of love, that unlocks all that.
It's really interesting what you say about identity. It must be tough for teenagers, people in their 20s, with all of the info we're inundated with on a daily basis on social media, digital news and media that comes out, all the different interactions that occur online, our mobile devices. It's got to be tough. And you don't necessarily notice you're going through it, perhaps. I know it took me a while of different sports and different activities and really putting my identity around where I'm putting my time, but then learning more about myself as I got into my 20s and my 30s. I think we're still discovering it at this day, now. And the way I look back in 20 years, 30 years, I may be able to describe my identity different than what I think it is today. So I can only imagine, as you're developing, trying to sort everything out, determine where to put your energy, really shape yourself and your life moving forward. I think we could use all the inspiration we can get. And again, I know that moment watching a film. I've been able to, take that feeling you get while watching a film and have it resonate into my day to day afterwards. Even when starting the business and some of the business movies I watched, some of the things that really gave me drive. So I think it's a great place to be focusing time.
Mel Gibson changed my life. Braveheart.
Yeah.
That was such an inspiring movie.
Yeah. One of the greats. It's fun talking about movies with people who are slightly younger. We'll do it on our team, and it's amazing. I guarantee there's people on my team who have never seen Braveheart.
I know.
And then getting to explain the script to them and the key moments, and maybe they've seen an image that's a meme, but at the same time, you're giving the backstory, you're giving a quote and why it matters. It puts you in the position of the storyteller, something you're very good at, even just walking through Calculated with you. So it gives us an opportunity to pass on what we got while we're sharing the script.
One of my favorite quotes from Mel Gibson in Braveheart is, every man dies, but not every man truly lives.
I think it's been said to me before skydiving.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean it.
That's one of my goals. I'd love to skydive. That's awesome. Oh,
it's actually very safe on a tandem jump, but you're building these movies. It takes a lot of work. You're talking about the years just in the planning, getting into production. You then have to build an audience, and you guys chose to do an equity crowdfunding, a regulated investment crowdfunding campaign. Why was that selected? Why did you guys determine this was the path for you?
I'll tell you, it was my choice. It was just me and John Lee at the time when we started it. And frankly, we talked about this earlier. I'm not a salesman, and I was new to the business world. And so, and John was doing his part of the business. Kind of fell to me to just reach out to all these VCs and pitch. We had six projects on our slate. We were trying to raise, I believe, $12 million, $2 million each, to develop it, by the way. And then each one would have like a $50 million budget that we'd bank finance. The whole system was all set up, and I had a pitch. And I had a lot of, I think I got in front of 60 different angel investors and VCs, and they're all positive. I think only a couple of them were like, here's a little constructive stuff for you, but this sounds really good. and not one penny, not $1. After 2 years of banging my head against the wall, presenting all these people. And it really came down to, frankly, a prayer where I'm like, because I felt called to me, that it was more than just a business or a dream. It's a calling. Like, I really believe I'm meant to do this. And I was like, all right, God, I've done my best. I'm gonna have to quit here and go back to teaching if something else doesn't happen. And I felt an answer in my spirit was, well, you never tried WeFunder. Well, no, it wasn't WeFunder, actually. I started with Start Engine, but you never tried equity crowdfunding. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Nobody succeeds at that. That's why I didn't do it. It's scary. But it was like, it just kind of came, well, it's your last straw, so you got to try it. And so I reached back out to Start Engine, and we got all set up to do it. And then, long story short, COVID hit. And so we switched over to WeFunder. And frankly, I'm really glad we did. I really like WeFunder. They're a great partner. Like, talked about the win-win. The team there is just amazing. And we've had a great experience with them. Shout out to that team out there. Yeah. But Johnny Price, I was blanking on his name. Johnny Price, great guy. But I would say equity crowdfunding, it's funny. I was scared to do it. I didn't think we'd succeed. It is hands down the best thing I think we ever did. Hands down. There are so many things I can say about the experience that are positive. To this day, it's been since 2000, right? So it's been 5 years and going. And we have yet to really have a negative investor come back to us. Even a comment. We have yet to have a negative comment from thousands of investors and thousands of comments from them. It's like having, we have 1,500 investors and they're all just cheerleaders. They're all just encouragement, right? And we see them as partners. And we take it extremely seriously if they put in $100. I had one, I'll never forget this. I couldn't tell her to take the money back. It was too late, right? Because we had already taken it down. And then I talked to her and met her. We talked on the phone. She was homeless. She had put her $100 in. That's all she could afford.
Wow.
Right. And I was like, so I ended up actually calling around the different areas to try and help her find, the resources she needed. I felt responsible. And I would have advised her never to invest. But there's so many people who have invested in us who are just positive, and it's amazing.
WeFunder calls it community rounds, REGG
Mm-hmm.
CF. And I think it's such a great marketing tactic for entertainment companies, because you're building the audience that's later going to see the film, later going to share it, and you're able to provide that experience to them of, hey, I'm a shareholder. There's some perks. Maybe my name's in the credits. Maybe I go to an event. But either way, I'm a shareholder in this, and I get to talk about it as an owner while watching, while talking about the film afterwards. It's a big deal. And I think that's why people were able to see your video, resonate with you, not complain afterwards. I've seen issuers that, did get negative comments afterwards. But what you guys are doing, it's coming from all the right places. It's to put out work that is good, true, and beautiful. And I think people, find a lot of joy in that. They get rewarded by that. And you guys ran multiple rounds, raised millions of dollars, and brought in thousands of ambassadors throughout the process. I'm sure you've befriended some of those investors. Their stories you're talking about.
Big time.
Yes. And I like how you took extra steps to help out the woman who invested with her last dollars. Explains how much she believed in the investment as a whole. But
Well,
as a marketer, I look at all of the benefits of REGG CF, and it's well beyond the capital and the amounts raised. The marketing campaign is added value on top. And then I really highlight the individuals, the ambassadors that continue to go on that journey with you.
actually, it was Mr. Wonderful. I got to talk to him in a little talk with Start Engine once on a call.
Mm.
But he actually helped me understand this before we started, that you could have a handful, say 3 to 5 investors give you $2 million, right? That's the typical way angel investors, VCs would do it, and that's easier. It's true. It's easier. 5 people on your cap table, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't have is 1,500 evangelists
Mm-hmm.
who are partnered in this with you, primarily because they have a passion for it, frankly. Like all of our investors that I know of are passionate about movies and are excited to be a part of the journey, right?
Yes.
So they're team members, and there's a lot of power there. If we want to run something by them and be like, what do you guys think of this idea? Will this work, in the story, or will this work with the marketing or whatever? You have an amazing group of people that you can test things with. There's just so many benefits. And it just amazes me that after so many years of, waiting. Oh, that's what I was going to say. You mentioned how we do updates. We decided early on, because we're a movie company, I think, we're going to do video updates. And it wasn't my decision. I think it was Steven's. We're going to do a video update every week. And I remember in the beginning, I'm like, what? Every week? Why? That's a lot. We don't need to. It's not going to be anything to tell them. But it turned out to be the best decision I think we ever made, because it opened the door for a lot of transparency. And we were just always communicating. And just people like one of our number one investors, I won't tell you his name. He's become a close friend on our team. He's like a part of the team, and he's invested a lot. But he said that was the difference. Like at first he was just like, whatever. It wasn't even very much, I think $500 or something. But as he watched the videos, he felt like he got to know us just from those videos. And then he trust, we earned his trust, he said. And then he felt like, I really want to invest in these people, not just in the movie.
People invest in people. I think it was definitely a standout that you're putting out the videos. Like you said, he felt like he knew you, and it adds a face to the name, but for the company, and it does feel like he's part of the team just by seeing those videos. I can't tell you how many founders do not take those steps. I'm actually glad you're putting this recommendation in here for, founders and whether they're running
My
a
strongest
crowdfund campaign or
recommendation.
not. Yeah.
Like it's an overwhelming, it's not just that one guy, it's an overwhelming, all the things that people have said, that's the number one by a long shot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, many founders shy away from that. They think, hey, our offering page is up, we have advertising, we have traffic running to it, it's going to do its thing. No, I find the personal updates go a long way. And even if it's not high production value, I know your guys' videos look very good, but a selfie video, and it then feels more, organic, authentic, real at that. But it gives the updates. There's groups that don't put any updates. WeFunder, any of the portals in the update section, they don't have emails running. When it's that content that could even make the difference from someone getting through the gate and investing. I like how you talked about repeat investments. There's a big opportunity for that. I think 10 to 30% of REGG CF investors participate multiple times, at least at the data that we look at, and it's different than the traditional routes. And the 5 investors and being able to walk away with this many more. What other recommendations would you have for founders? What should they be testing out towards their growth, towards their equity crowdfunding campaign, towards their project as a whole?
That's a good question. I do. I mean, to be honest, I think that the environment we were in 2020 was different than the one now. And so there's different things you need to be aware of. But I guess I would say that authenticity test, right? How transparent are you being? do people feel like they know you? Like actually go out and ask the people who are encountering your pitch, if you're on WeFunder or Start Engine or whatever you're on, when they're encountering that, like interview them and ask them. And when you start putting your videos out, just get feedback on those. And then if you want to talk about testing, that's what I feel like would help us. We would respond to even just one or two people who would say something about our video. You know, people might say, hey, your videos talked about this, but you know, I didn't understand your algorithm that you created for the investment and how we get paid back. So we would respond the next week with an explanation, right? We just responded a lot to what people would say in response to what we did.
Closed loop. You're pitching investors, pitching individuals who can invest at retail levels, get their feedback, authenticity test, ask them. Don't just go off your assumptions. You can go off the data, and you should, but narrow that gap, ask the actual individuals, get the right feedback. What about for groups that do, and they launch and it's not quite working? Maybe it's working for a while, but they hit a block, they hit an obstacle. What are the best approaches towards optimization, towards pivoting, towards managing to a point of effectiveness?
It's a good question. So specific to, you know, like crowdfunding, or at least equity crowdfunding.
Sure.
One of the things we learned was we did like a 10 to 11 month long raise. We didn't really have an end in sight. We just had a final amount of money we wanted to raise. And so the beginning went pretty well. And then we got to this point where it kind of hit this just long, dead pan, like a valley. And we didn't know what to do. And it was actually, I would say, Steven who came up with one idea. We all had different ideas at different times. At one point, we reached out to a nonprofit and said, hey, we'd love to donate, you know, a percentage of our profits from the film to you guys. Would you be willing to kind of help us advertise to your people this film? Which it was, you know, there's a theme of trafficking in the film. And so we reached out to a trafficking nonprofit, and that actually produced hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that was one way that worked really well. Then we hit another deadpan silence. No idea why. You know, we're like, what are we doing wrong? You know, it was working before, now it's not. What's wrong? And I think Steven came up with the idea. He would like, he was crazy. He would just go out and like ride his bike for hours and hours and hours and think of ideas. And he decided, let's just do a t-shirt. Let's just come back and say, hey, if you just increase, he went back to our investors that we already had. And he said, if you just increase your investment by any amount, just put in another $100, whatever, we'll give you this special signed t-shirt, whatever. And it worked. It worked really well, frankly. In fact, he always jokes. He got this one guy, I won't say who, but one investor called him or emailed him. I think he called him and said, hey, if I invest another $10,000, can I have an extra t-shirt from my cousin? What are you going to say? No, nope, that's not part of the rules. Yes, you can have an extra t-shirt if you invest 10,000. Absolutely. So he got a $10,000 t-shirt, but that helped a lot. So frankly, I just feel like for us, it was just being creative. But what I started this response with was that we also learned, and you could talk about this more than I could. There's always going to be a lull in the middle, and the beginning and the end of an equity crowd raise is always going to be where most of the money comes in. Because in the beginning, I don't know why in the beginning, but in the end, all the big check writers have been kind of circling around and just waiting until they see the end in sight, and then they're going to invest, is what I've heard at least. So we shorten it down to 60 to 90 days at the most, because it's just, you know, we don't want to elongate the pain if we don't have to. So
strong launch, fear of missing out at the end. A lot of
Mhm.
investors who are on the sidelines come in during the closing. Yes, that's why I asked the question around optimization. And so many founders can give up and just, look to cut things or move right to closing.
Mm.
I like the intentionality of 60, 90 days and planning out the entire period. I envision
Mm.
content calendars. What are some headline worthy announcements that could come up, be announced, even manufactured at the beginning, so that you have engagement and
Mm.
there's less of a lull. But yes, every campaign experiences a lull. Speaking in generalities, it's absolutely true. Can
Mm.
look at the top Regulation A+ issuers, groups that raise tens of millions of dollars. I could tell you about their lulls, but I think you put a lot of great ideas in there. Of hit the phones, look for those win-wins, look for those strategic partnerships. You guys got a hold of a nonprofit, ended up equating to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and really fulfillment on both sides. Ride your bike for hours, whatever your approach towards that is. But think, coffee meeting, whiteboard. Let's really brainstorm. You came up with the idea of, hey, we have all these investors. How can we get more involvement from them? The t-shirt, I can tell you, people probably have t-shirts signed and framed at their offices or at their house. Probably means something to them. They're able to point to it, tell a story. You have people wanting to invest 10,000 and get another shirt. So it definitely created more of that connection with the audience and showed up in the results, of course. So those creative ideas came out of it, and came from the right place. What about when you see that working? How do you scale? I know that's what so many people are out to do, and they're playing for, and their questions around it. There's many building blocks to get there. But any tips, any examples towards scaling?
So, I'm going to actually watch this podcast and that whole section you just said, all those things, I'm going to take notes. You're definitely the marketing guru, man. That's good stuff. How to scale? Yeah, I mean, I would say all the things we've said so far on the first raise is very important. You just gotta you've got to make sure that you get a strong start. And sometimes that takes some creativity working with people you already know, because if you just cold turkey try and get people who don't know you to invest the first money in, that's hard. So we worked on that. That helps a lot, just to get some momentum at the beginning. And then to scale, our experiences was everything I just told you. That's how we scaled, is just partnerships and things. That was the first raise. But I'll tell you, the second raise was way easier, because we already had this foundation of 1,200 investors who already believed in us. And so when we needed to raise, another 1.3 million the second time, it was just way easier, and we focused in on those investors in particular, and then encouraging them to bring other people with them. I think that's really helpful. I can't say enough about, because one thing you've got to realize is that there are two kinds of investors. There's the retail investors who really, by law, they're not really allowed to invest more than 10,000. Most of them are around 5 to 10,000 a year. And then you have accredited investors. And the cool thing about, at least on WeFunder, I'm sure Start Engine and the others do the same, you can know who those people are. So you can take that whole list of investors and just focus on, here's the accredited investors. And then you can just go directly to them and just say whatever the sky's the limit, what you want to say with them. Win-win situations you want to work with them in particular, and those are the ones who are able to really write some large checks and come behind what you're doing. So in terms of scaling, finding out who those people are and targeting them in particular with certain things that would really appeal to them is really a good idea, I think.
Understanding your audience, speaking to them in a more personalized fashion, being able to look at the results, being able to look at the audiences as a whole and say, hey, we should put more effort towards these pockets. I refer to as pockets of performance, and being able to do more of what's working. And just want to emphasize to the audience here, you guys are one of the top issuers to date. It's only 7% of issuers that hit $1 million or more on a REGG CF campaign. You guys have done it multiple times. You've raised well past the $1 million line, on each of those that we're referring to. So it's not just good ideas that you're talking about. It's what physically got you to those tangible results that you're then able to use to make this production come to life.
I will say, that's a good point, what you just said. And I will say, I do think our video that Steven produced had a whole lot to do with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was more than just, it was cool looking. It was the psychology behind it that he understood. Do you want to get in on the ground floor of the next Hunger Games? I mean, that opening statement is like, yeah, like I do. For people who love movies, but then like a cool franchise and being in on the ground floor, and then explaining, he just did a good job with that. So I think that's pretty key, to be honest, on how to scale, because we tried other things and they didn't work as well as that video. We just kind of went back to that and kept going with that one.
Strong hook, value proposition, followed by an ask, and having enough traffic, having enough people, the right prospects getting to it.
Mm-hmm. I like how you put that.
I feel like I'm learning from you talking to you. I can see how you're able to have an impact and resonate with your students. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, Jason. It's really a privilege for me. For anyone who's tuned in, they're listening, they're viewing, maybe they want to get in contact with you. What's the best place for them to go to learn more? And any final thoughts, any final statements you want to leave us here with today as we begin to wrap up?
Yeah. The best place to get a hold of me, I would say, is just OneDoorStudios.com. info@OneDoorStudios.com actually comes to me, and then I disseminate it to any of the other guys if I need to. So final thoughts, I would say, is really think about those 3 transcendentals, and I'm not just saying that lightly. I really believe that if we all focused on those, our businesses would flourish way, way more than they are. And a lot of people don't know that, don't realize that. They think being self-centered somehow helped them succeed. But I've seen it, and I've seen it all throughout history. I'm a history teacher too. Even Napoleon, was highly successful, but in the end, he really wasn't in a lot of ways. He failed in a lot of ways. And I just think pursuing the good, the true, and the beautiful ultimately is how to succeed. Even if, like some of my friends from communist China, who have, they have a network, if you will, of 150 million people. And what do they have a lot of money? No. But did they succeed? I think so. Especially because they made all of those people's lives better, bringing them freedom and joy and hope, so yeah, that would be my final thoughts.
I'm going to be thinking about those 3 transcendentals: good, true, beautiful, applying it to, my calls, my projects for the rest of the week here. I'm really glad that you didn't listen to people while growing up who told you not to try or that you can't, and that you found this life of purpose and are able to work on things that are meaningful to you. And you're able to team build, you're able to go at these projects that are designed to inspire. It's truly remarkable. It's truly inspiring to me, and glad we're able to talk about it here today.
Thanks, Jason. It's mutual. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks again, Jason. And thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take care.